welcome to the Corporate Talk. Today is a pleasure to have a new talk with a very interesting person and professional, Julia Barden. She's a psychologist with HR background. You're a career coach, supporting professionals in their career paths, also in their struggling professional moments, supporting them what to do, and also in the early stage, that critical moment about finding what to study, what to work on. You also support the young people also in the choosing the right path and also supporting the application process for new jobs, also especially in Germany. And you also make seminars for companies on stress management. So, Julia, thank you. Very interesting career paths you have, and thank you for joining the Corporate Talk today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
Julia, I have two books here of you. I really like what you write. And I have a third one that actually is borrowed by a friend of mine because her daughter is in this moment of finding the right career path, what to study. And your book will help a lot. And tell me more about you. So, what inspired you to become a career coach and also write books about finding the right career path?
Yeah, so when I was studying psychology, I was very interested in the human and what makes human happy and living a happy, successful life. And I was leaning a little bit towards the business psychology side. So I worked in HR in some German companies and did a lot of interviews in assessment center. And then I got self-employed because I figured out that a lot of people struggled with the selection process. So how to prepare for job interviews, how to write, the documents, especially international people. And also that I saw that a lot of people didn't have this straight CV, but were making career changes. And I was always interested in how to live a, successful, happy career life also. So that's why I decided to help people with, in the application process and also figuring out the right career path for them. So yeah, this is how I got into that area. And as you mentioned, then I also wrote some books in that area. And it's always very interested in helping people with, finding the right career path, because I think it's such a crucial decision also in such a young age. And I figured out that a lot of people also didn't really make a very conscious decision back then. So now as you mentioned, I also help younger people in figuring out the right, career path and what to study also.
And that's very interesting because I think it's a very tough moment. I remember myself, it was really hard for me also to define what to study, which way to go, and so on, because I have so many passions, so many things I like. And tell me more about this career choice. What are the common challenges people face when trying to find the what to study and which career to pursue?
Yeah, I think in Germany, especially, one struggle is that the school doesn't cover this subject enough. So people are left alone a lot of times with this decision. And and kids are usually quite quickly influenced as well. So when they don't get career guidance in that moment, they are influenced quickly by, what the parents expect or what other classmates do, or maybe family members, etc. So that is a common challenge, I think, that people have or kids have, to not really focus on what are my own interests, what are my own skills, what am I good at, what are my strengths and weaknesses. So I think in general, not really doing or taking a very conscious decision, but rather being quickly influenced, or maybe they know someone who has a specific job and they can get an internship, and then they just kind of go that route without really making a conscious decision about what they actually want. And maybe it's also hard to look into the future as a young adult, to actually know, where do I see myself in 5 years or 10 years. But that's also important to consider. So I would say in general, the not taking enough steps to really making a conscious decision is what most people struggle with.
I can imagine. And also, it's a hard decision nowadays that so many things are changing, right?
Mhm.
In the job, in the companies, lots of people are building their own business.
Mhm.
So I can imagine that it's also a kind of a tricky point now to how to overcome or how to find the right path in this such a changing environment that we have nowadays, right? So many new technologies. Yeah,
Exactly, because a lot of career paths that were very normal for our grandparents or parents, they don't exist anymore, or they will maybe not exist in 10 years. So that's
true.
also always something to consider. Will the job I want to be actually exist in 10 years? So for example, if somebody really wants to be a driving instructor, who knows if in 10 years we will only have autonomous driving cars, right? So a lot of career paths don't really will continue to exist. So that's also something to consider for sure.
That's interesting. Let's jump now to the stage of the person who already study, is already in their career, working 10 years or more, and now comes the struggle that they're not happy in their career. So what are the common challenges you hear from people that are coming for you to ask for help in their struggles, and what do you see as a more common pattern that happens in this moment that makes them unhappy, or to rethink if they can need to change their moment?
Yes. Yeah, I see that a lot with people who are usually years unhappy in their current career path until they actually take the conscious decision to change. So
Mhm.
that is one problem that people a lot of times hesitate to make a change. So they rather stay for years unhappy than to make a change. And only
Mhm.
when it reaches a certain point where they cannot ignore this anymore, then they actually seek help with me, for example. So that is one common thing. And then when we look into why people are unhappy, a lot of times it's the case that they actually already didn't take this conscious decision on, for example, what to study. So they already studied the wrong thing. And then a lot of times they also didn't, again, take this conscious decision, what do they want to do with their studies, but rather
Mhm.
they did maybe an internship and they got a job offer or something like that, or a friend went into that route, or they did the same route as their parents or something like that. So then again, they don't take this conscious decision. So they end up in an area that doesn't really fit them, and they usually stay unhappy for quite some time before actually taking the decision to change something. So I would say that is a very common thing that I face, and I would hope that people would kind of ask them every day if they are happy or not. And of course, you can't be happy all the time, but I think there's a Steve Jobs quote that says if he always asks himself in the morning, is he happy with what's he gonna do during that day? And if it's too many days in a row, it's a no, then he needed to change something. So I think that's also a nice indicator to just see if you're unhappy over weeks, over a month, where does this come from and what to change.
But that's interesting. You mentioned something that I think it's quite inspiring. Is about the people who is unhappy for a long time.
Mhm.
And this happens a lot, right? I think maybe a fear of change, or maybe the lack of knowing what do they like, or where is the best fit for them. And this can be quite unhealthy, right, in the long term. Do you think this might lead to some stress moments, burnout, or other more complex problems in health?
It can, because if you are constantly doing what you don't like, or if you are feel like it's not a good fit, the job, then it also can lead to a lot of stress. And if this becomes chronicle, if this is every day, then of course it can also lead to a burnout. And yeah, I think this is what happens to a lot of people. And people are just the human nature is very, yeah, people are very eager to stay in their lane and not do changes, because changes are always considered to be very energy consuming. You know, people always
Mhm.
want to know what they will be doing tomorrow and don't have this uncertainty of change. But in the end, this can lead to people being unhappy for a long time. I think the problem is that they are scared of what's on the other side. That's the same with maybe if you're unhappy in a relationship, you never know, if I break up, will I ever find someone else? Will it be actually better? So it's the same with
It's
jobs.
the
You don't
same.
know, will I find another job? Will it be actually better? Will I be at the same place? Will I not find a job? So I think that's also one of the key problems why people stay in situations that make them unhappy even over years.
Wow, interesting. And do you have some tips for someone who is watching us right now and might be struggling with their careers? Which tips can you give for them also to get out of this fear zone?
Sure. So, especially in Germany right now, we have really a lack of workers. So, in general, it's a really good situation for people to seek jobs. So, also, last call, what you can always remember is going back to your previous area is usually not so hard. So, let's say you actually do a change and then you should actually find yourself again in an unhappy job. Going back to your older area is usually not that big of a problem. So that can be one thing to kind of relax yourself over this fear of change. And the second thing I let my clients do is to really assess their CV. So I let them either write down their CV or print it out and really look at what did you do your whole career life. So we started, what did you study, and then going over maybe the internships you did and every single career step that you took. And I always let them think about how happy were they at that stage, especially career-wise. So what were maybe, if you had one internship or career that you were quite happy, what were the reasons for that, and then really think about the tasks that you did, or was it about the colleagues or the work atmosphere? But of course, especially the tasks are interesting for us to maybe figure out what could be a path that actually aligns with your previous experience. So it's not a total career change, but it could be something, to focus on. Or also the studies, thinking back of were there specific courses that you took that you did find interesting? So maybe that could be a route to go to. Or also look back at who did you study with, for example, or who were your previous work colleagues and which route did those people go? So maybe you studied, let's say, mechanical engineering, and now just look back and try to find your classmates on LinkedIn or so and see what route did they go, because a lot of times the careers nowadays are not that straight anymore. Maybe they also ended up in a slightly different area. You can get more inspiration. So really taking a step back and analyzing your own CV and how happy you were, and especially maybe getting some new inspiration on career tasks is great, because of course changing like 180 degrees to a totally different area is always harder than maybe moving to an area where you are at least slightly or at least partially qualified for, that it be from what you studied or also from your previous work experience. So that is one step that's very efficient.
That's really good tip. Also to go back to the past and to collect the what the experience they like the most, right? This is quite interesting. Very nice. Well, let's talk a little bit about your books. There is one in particular that I really like, is this Glücklich werden. I even have some notes already
Oh,
wrote.
great.
So what I really like is that you make it in a very interactive way. So also to support them finding the best decisions, right, that they can choose. And how your books support your one-on-one coaching with your customers? Do you bring the books also to them?
Yes, so always when somebody, for example, is looking for a career change, but also maybe looking at what to study, I always send the book up front so they can actually read through the book. And also I always have them fill out some of the exercises there, like where you can actually write in the book about what are your interests, your skills, also analyzing the CV, etc. for the next session. So they always prepare something and have questions to think about before the next session with me. So that is really helpful. And also for people who are more, they prefer to have something online, I send them my Udemy courses because I have Udemy courses about the same topic. So that's also then they fill out the PDFs. But either way, they are designed, both the books and the Udemy courses, for kind of a self-coaching. So it's also possible to do without a coach. But of course, it's also very helpful as a base for discussion for the sessions. So
That's really nice.
yeah, either way up front.
Really nice, because we humans, we learn more by doing. So this is quite a very nice methodology that you created, because that's make us think and plan also in our time, in our pace, right? And that's really good. Thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about network. So, if the person wants to shift their career, or has a different mindset, or is not happy about what they're doing now, do you think the network from this past experience, from previous jobs or classes or studies, might help them in this career change? What is the value of having a network?
Yes, for sure. So one step also, after in the career coaching, after we figured out maybe 3 career paths that could fit to you, then comes the testing phase. And the first thing is always to think about, do you know anyone who has taken that career path? Do you know anyone in that professional area? And even if you don't know someone, you can ask around, ask your network if they know someone, or even look on LinkedIn, to find someone and then connect. And especially if you maybe directly know someone or know someone over another person, then you can contact them and schedule a call, or let's say an interview, or maybe just go out for a coffee and really prepare some questions beforehand that you're most interested about. Whatever is most important to you, to really find out how's the everyday work life. What tasks are there really, what are maybe challenges, and how they overall also like their job, if they would suggest it for other people as well, or maybe what kind of skills do you need for that job, all questions you might have about it. And this already gives you a good insight, especially if maybe you find a couple of people you can talk to, because always, of course, just talking to one person, it can also just be this person has a bad or good experience just because of something external or so. But talking to a couple of people is great. If you can't find anyone, maybe even looking nowadays on YouTube or the social networks, a lot of people talk there or blog about their jobs, right? So something like that can also give you a good insight. And in general, network is great. If you already know someone, it's always easier to get in as well. So if you do an interview with someone and you actually already know someone thus, then maybe you can also ask, how's the hiring process at his or her company, etc. And also job fairs are actually great. So in every bigger city, you have job fairs. So that's also a great way of meeting, HR people from all kinds of different areas. So even if you don't have a professional network yet, that's something that is open to everyone. It's for free. You can go there and already have this personal impression, and also be able to ask questions, and maybe already, hand in your CV or so. That's also a great way.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. And now I think it's to the closing part of our interview. And I'm really thank you for all of these insights you brought. I will put your website here on the video description. But for a closing, uh, could you finish the video with some tips on how individuals can prepare themselves, and which are the key factors they could consider about when making a career change?
Yeah, so I think maybe the first one I would give is to really analyze your current position. So similarly to how I do it in the book or the Udemy courses, to look at your current situation and look, what are you unhappy with? Is it rather the company? Is it rather the job position you have? Is it maybe colleagues or bosses, or what exactly it is? Because, for example, if it's mainly the job itself and you're happy with the company, it's also possible to generally move within a company to a slightly different area, you know. But if it's rather the company and not the job, then maybe a career change in the way of doing the same career type but in a different company could be a good suggestion, you know. So really carefully analyzing the situation, and then, as I said, also, you know, looking at your CV, maybe looking at what have you previously considered studying, or what career path have you previously considered, maybe even as a teenager, as a child, you know. Ask your parents or other peers what they think, what would fit you, especially people that know you well and that you can trust. They are a lot of times great advisors, you know. Of course, don't base it just on that, otherwise you do the same mistake as a lot of young adults do. But people you trust that know you for a long time, it's always great, and see all of this just as inspiration. Don't base it just on the idea of one person, but generally inspo, and writing down, maybe having a notes in your cell phone where you can write down when you have a different idea, you know. So in the end, you have a couple of career paths, and then just kind of try to get an idea, maybe get into it by doing maybe an internship or maybe job shadowing, or so, to maybe get a practical idea also. And then just also, yeah, be courageous to actually do the change.
That's nice. Thank you, Julia. Julia, we've met because I have found you in the internet, and I was in a struggling moment in my career, which is normal. Everyone has this moment. And I really thank you and appreciate. So I will also emphasize that you speak three languages. So you speak Portuguese, English, and German, also to so that people can also know that you're also available in three languages.
For sure.
Thank you, Julia, for your time. It
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really nice talking to you. Bye
was
bye.
really nice. Bye, Julia.